Hi, I'm Amitabh Banerjee, professor and epidemiologist. I am reading the chapters of Pandemic, the Third Eye, which I have authored. This book is based on the pandemic as it evolved, and I have purpose of this narration is to put up standalone chapters on my YouTube channel, which people who do not have time to read can listen, either future scholars or even the lay public, because these things, the pandemic was an illustration of the fault lines in a public health system at a global level. So the chapter 16, the title is Public Health. Corporate hospitals pushed family physicians out but failed to replace them. Corporate hospitals have pushed out the family physicians, but size, glitz, and glamour are not always effective, as the biblical tale of Goliath versus David tells us. So I have tried to compare the gradually expanding medical corporate with the giant Goliath. And I have narrated the tale and a reinterpretation by Gladwell. So I have started with the legend of Goliath and David. Goliath is a gigantic Philistine warrior with full armor, sword, and javelin, equipped with the state of the art gear for combat. He epitomizes strength, backed with unlimited wealth. David, on the other hand, is a small but lowly shepherd boy carrying a stick and a sling who dared to take on the challenge of fighting the mighty Goliath. In the ensuing contest, to the amazement of all, David, with his nimbleness, flexibility, and adaptability, brings down the clumsy, groping Goliath by a sharp stone thrown from his sling. Down the ages, people have assumed that Goliath, given his size and heavy armor, had the advantage in this unequal combat, and David's victory over Goliath was a fluke. Against all odds, recently, Malcolm Gladwell, based on published research, has reinterpreted this biblical tale in his book, David and Goliath, Underdogs, Misfits, and the Art of Battling Giants. Gladwell affirms that we get this famous legend often wrong, as we misunderstand who had the upper hand in this uneven match. Scientific and theological investigations have unraveled many fascinating facts surrounding the clash between David and Goliath. A peer-reviewed paper by Deirdre Donnelly and Patrick Morrison titled Hereditary Gigantism, the Biblical Goliath and His Brothers, published in Ulster Medical Journal in 2014. After meticulous study of the description of Goliath in original Hebrew theology texts and current scientific information, conclude that Goliath suffered from acromegaly caused by a tumor of the pituitary gland at the base of the brain. This tumor increases the secretions of the growth hormone, which leads to gigantism. The tumor also presses on the optic nerve, which carries visual images from the eyes to the brain and can lead to double vision and severe nearsightedness. Goliath is blind is evident in the biblical narrative where he has to be led by hand to the contest. The big lumbering giant is also weighed down by his cumbersome heavy armor, making his movements clumsy and slow. David, while no match in size, but with advantage of speed and flexibility, vanquished his mighty foe with a precise throw from his sling. Gladwell says lessons from the ancient tale are applicable to big monolithic organizations. The very things which make these organizations formidable, such as size, huge resources, state-of-the-art technology, often weigh down these companies like Goliaths, heavy armor, and limit their vision, leading to big and unexpected failures. After a period of growth, size transforms them from advantage to a handicap. Conflicts of interest, absent in times of Goliath, deprives them of autonomy. Parallels can be drawn to these dynamics in the gigantic heights reached by medicine and public health in recent decades. Remarkable advances in medical technology, such as genomics, precision medicine, and biotechnology, have transformed medicine to gigantic or acromegalous heights. The accompanying costs and challenges of sustaining technology have made individual practice give way to corporate hospitals, transforming medicine from a calling to big business propped up by pharmaceutical giants. The sheer size and gigantic visibility of the medico-pharmacological industry has given rise to unrealistic expectations among people and that every ill has a pill. No doubt medical advances have led to remarkable improvements in health and wellness of people. But like in the case of Goliath, the vision and flexibility of this faceless growing industry has contracted and diminished. It should be a matter of concern and introspection for all. Fall of this medical giant can be catastrophic for humankind. The writing on the wall is ominous. The response of this medical Goliath to the latest pandemic brought these limitations to the fore. Faced with a nimble, small, fast-spreading, and adaptable foe in the form of SARS-CoV-2, it groped and stuttered clumsily to vanquish the invisible enemy. The clumsy, visionless movements of this giant trampled upon lives and livelihoods across the globe. Prolonged restrictive measures like lockdowns destroyed businesses and fractured society. While the initial awkward and uncoordinated response in face of many unknowns was understandable, the giant failed to adapt itself to accumulating evidence. It kept on persisting with the restrictive measures for all when data indicated that the novel virus is lethal mostly for frail, elderly, or people with comorbidities. Schools and educational institutions were closed and continued to be closed in many countries when evidence indicated that risk to young people and children were minimal and far less than many risks of daily life, such as accidents and other endemic diseases. Just as Goliath flung blindly at David without making any impact, the mainstay of the COVID-19 response continued to depend on blind chase of the virus by contact tracing and quarantine, even when the virus silently spread through communities, and these resource intensive measures did not so to make any dent and were futile and costly during the later stages of the pandemic. Just as the pituitary tumor keeps on growing and secretes more growth hormone, the increasing size diminishing even further, the pandemic response stimulated more technology by way of expanding vaccines for all ages, including young people and children who are at minimal risk, while the nimble virus continued to adapt by way of more mutations. This frantic mass vaccination campaign were being rolled out even in countries where every 2% out of 3 had recovered from natural infection as revealed by Zero surveys. Particularly in India, we had done that. Research shows that natural infection confers robust immunity while same cannot be said about vaccines. Long-term adverse effects, if any, of the vaccines which are under emergency use authorizations are also unknown. In this crisis, many would be missing the Davids of yes medicine. That is the general practitioners of a bygone era with a stethoscope symbolic of the sling. They would wonder whether these Davids would have performed better with the flexible and customized approach instead of the costly state-of-the-art armor of RT-PCR and chest scans with a host of costly and useless repurposed drugs. They would also wonder whether a David would have forced them to get vaccinated from a growing choice of rapidly developed vaccines. The giant Goliath, besides trampling on livelihoods in the mad chase for the virus, continuing to do all this for a disease in which 99.9% of all those who catch the virus survive. The combat between the giant and the nimbic virus is continuing, so it would be inappropriate to predict or pass judgment on who will win or what is the right approach. Posterity will judge. This was written when the pandemic was going on and panic was at the peak. This purpose of this chapter is most of the chapters are standalone, and it is not only recording the history of the pandemic, these chapters, it is also a case study for future pandemics. So I would like, if you like it, to share it, and I would like a debate around this. I would like a rebuttal around this. I have been writing these columns are more than 2 years old. They had been coming in the National Herald, and I have been time and again I have been asking whether I have missed anything, whether I am having some blind spots like Goliath. So I have to get a good feedback yet based on data and science. This all for today. Thank you.